In your particular setting, can you describe any issues or challenges of representation that or social justice that you would like to see addressed? And this could relate to anything. This could relate to leadership, membership, or any aspect of your ensemble or class in general.
Well, I'm going to go back to the same leitmotif.
Yeah.
That is that I believe it's mandatory for equality, respect, and ethics to be a part of the pedagogical approach.
Okay.
Let me give you an example. If there are students in my ensemble whose heritage is Balkan, I tell them that politics has no place in the classroom. No politics. And this has to do with often with the conflict, division that has always been present in the Balkans because of religious, territorial claims and aspirations, that sort of thing. And I'll give you an example. If there are Turks in the class, for example, I sometimes will eliminate verses of songs that refer to oppression during the 500 years of Turkish rule.
Yeah.
So I'm very, careful, not to offend in any way. When you've lived in different parts of the world and you have a profound understanding of different cultures, you know in which ways you need to be diplomatic and understanding and avoid conflict.
I like that because especially in a music class, most of us like to feel safe and like to see at least a bit of us represented in some way. So it's good to know that like you know where your students come from, so you know what to bring, So
I
not yet
certainly do.
not just bringing general stuff that could be a target to one person. I like that. It means you pay careful attention to your students, and that's really important, especially in the music department. That's the only way we can grow and learn and be open to even learn other cultures.
Well, you know what one student said about another ensemble, and that's how I feel about mine, is
Okay.
that she said, we are like a family,
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm?
And I think that's why students keep coming back. Otherwise, they might just come and go.
Hmm. Yeah, and ensemble meant to feel like a family, so it means you're doing the right thing. So that's good.
Let's say in our system, the social justice is something which is lacking in the system, the whole system, even before the pandemic comes. You see, it is very hard to be uh, of a different color teaching in institution.
Yeah.
You see, so what I think is most of the institutions they don't care about the quality of what they present to the student. They think of quantity,
Mm.
and that quantity they think of too is not presented in the good direction. So
Well, I think there's always the question of, how diverse is the ensemble? Is the ensemble membership diverse enough? I remember when I first started at this in my position here, there was a Ghanaian that had been teaching the ensemble that
Okay.
left, and I took his spot, and then I had someone from the Office of Diversity on campus come up and tell me that we used to have an African teach on this ensemble, and it was really good then.
No,
So so
no.
that I think that representation means a lot to different people,
Yeah.
to different people. So it would be nice, but our campus isn't as diverse as other places are, and therefore the ensembles aren't necessarily as diverse as they could be
Yeah.
either. So I think that that's important issue to address. But then again, also with the same idea of diversity and racial social justice, what's important to the Black community here on campus may or may not be African music and dance.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's important to recognize that as well, that it's, there's no need to force people into trying to be, that social change happens, and that I try to be as welcoming as possible, and try to include as many people as possible to encourage that diversity. But if you're trying to force it to happen, that's maybe not the best approach.
Yeah.
Either.
I do get that, because if you're forced, you don't really understand the value of what you're doing, which is really awesome. But I just feel some people don't even know what it is, so they don't know what they're missing.
Sure.
That's the sad thing, because I also didn't think, I thought it was uncool and weird, and I just wanted to learn guitar when I started my undergrad. And I finally took a drumming class in my third year, and I was like, I have been missing my entire life. I just feel like if I wasn't introduced, I wouldn't have known that this is a nice thing, and it helped me learn more about my culture than I ever did. So
sure. Yeah. I think, I think another issue, and something I try to address, is the idea of performance and expectations of performance. I think, a lot of people shy away from the ensemble because they think, oh, we're going to have to get on stage and we have to do a concert.
Yeah.
And it's right. And if they're feeling shy, or they haven't been in that situation before, that can be a daunting task. And I think it's important to sort of educate not only those that are in the ensemble, but those that watch the music, that we shouldn't hold, one semester of an ensemble isn't the same as a professional performing group. And it's even within the School of Music, where we have students that have studied, their instrument all through middle school and high school, and now they're majoring in music in college, right? So the orchestra, there's a different set of performance expectations there, because they've spent a lot more time with their instrument, right? And I think that we have to really educate the audiences and communities as well, that if we're gonna learn this music, or we're gonna learn music from other places, we're demonstrating what we've learned in a semester, and we don't necessarily have the same technical virtuosity that someone that's been studying this their whole life has to do that. So I think that there's the places that we perform, and how we perform, and how we present it really shows a lot about how honestly we do that, and how honestly we represent that.
Yeah, that's really great. And I love that you mentioned that the audience also needs to be educated, because that's really important. Sometimes we just think about the people performing it and forget about those actually watching it. So that's really
material.
Interesting.
What does it mean for me to engage in this? How does this impact lives? How does this, and I think in music, so many are just focused on the performance. How many rehearsals left? How much time? Parts, who's absent? Who's going to cover? Repairs? And we forget about, especially cultural musics. I mean, I realize not all music is pulling from specific traditions.
I don't know. I feel if you're teaching music, you should be more aware about culture than anyone else, because it's tied. It's tied.
It seems so obvious when you see it. I compare it to when you wake up, or you're in the dark and you think there's somebody in the chair, and then you realize it was just a blanket. And then you can't believe you ever thought it was a person.
Yeah.
If the music and culture are tied, you can't imagine that somebody doesn't see it.
Yeah.
They don't see them as, well, that's the social studies teacher, that's the history teacher's responsibility, that's the diversity course person's responsibility. And then that puts all of that responsibility on one person. And then the students get to my class and they say, this is the only class we're talking about these things. And also in my classes, let's say something happens, before George Floyd's murder, there were others, but for example, Philando Castile was murdered here on a day we were all in class in the summer. And so I just clear the deck and we open the floor so we can talk about it, because what does it have to do with music? Everything. You know, and somebody might not see that connection of what does his being murdered over there have to do with my studying to be a music teacher over here. But again, like you said, the way we treat people, the way we view people, the way we view them as unworthy or disposable, we do the same for music.
Yeah.
And so I would like to see the music education profession at large, and my institution is included in that, to redefine the ways we understand what musicianship is, and to redefine the ways that we welcome those multiple ways of being musical into our collectives.
Is there improvisation? Are there variations? Can you make your own arrangement? All of that, yes, but the essence has to be respected completely. The language has to be respected, the language of the drum, the language of the songs, the respect for the elders and for the spirits. It's the music is full of respect, and that, I think, is always an important message, and I've always taught it that way. But in relation to the current social issues that are becoming more to the forefront, that the youth are really bringing forward, including climate change. I mean, I end up talking a lot about the climate, about respecting Mother Nature, about listening to nature, and how the human beings as a species are not good listeners. We don't listen to Mother Nature, and she's clearly punishing us. Like, if I didn't listen to my mom, she would punish me. And so Mother Nature is saying, you guys are not listening to your mother, and I have to punish you to get you to pay attention. In the same way that, you know, a good mother will bring discipline to her children. And when I say we listen to Mother Nature, I say we have to, you know, acknowledge where we got our music from. We listen to the wind, we listen to the crickets, we listen to the birds, we listen to the insects, we listen to the rain, we listen to the thunder, and we turn all of that into music. And when we play outdoors, and we play with the intent of unifying ourselves, of connecting with all of nature, anything that's alive. And that is actually the philosophy of the animist religions in Ghana. And what's so interesting about it, and I don't know what your experience was growing up, I'd be curious to know, but when I went to Ghana the first time and I was 28, I was just learning music, and they were just teaching me how to play, and people were playing with me, and I played with people every day. When I left Ghana and I came back here, I felt so almost sick, just depleted. And it took me so many trips back to Ghana to realize what had happened that first time. I even went to doctors who couldn't find anything wrong with me. But I realized that they had weaved my spirit in with their spirit of their community and with the nature. And so it took me 6 months to reel my spirit back in. And now that I've been back and forth, my spirit knows, okay, it's connected in both places so strongly. And when I went back and discussed it with my Ghanaian friends, I said, is that really what happened? Did you guys, when we were playing music that first time I was here 5 years ago, 6 years, were you weaving my spirit in with your spirit and the spirit of the earth and the trees and the animals? They said, yeah, that's what we do. I said, why didn't you tell me you were doing that? I had to figure this out. I felt so terrible when I went home. I didn't have my whole spirit because you guys were holding on to it. Why didn't you? They say, it's just what we do. We don't think about it. We just do it. And in Ghana, they don't analyze it so much. In the US, we're so used to analyzing and trying to figure everything out, and we're so scientifically trained. We don't just feel it and do it. We have to know and understand what we're doing. But in West Africa, that's what they do.
Yeah, it's a way of life. When I say music and dance, you can't No, our culture without learning music and dance, I mean every single part of the music and dance. The spirit, the instruments, the singing, the food, the language. It's all one big circle.